In terms of dealing with your situation as an individual, but also as part of this extraordinary team, let's talk about teamwork first off and how you fit into it, and then how you lead a team.
Yeah, it's really important because I think any team, whether it be business or sport, you have this balance, and you want this balance between. You have all these people, and particularly like at the elite level of sport or business, you have these people that are there for their own selfish reasons, and you can't get away from that. I think everyone in the room has their selfish motivations, and actually you want that because you want them to have that ambition, to be singularly focused on something they desperately want to achieve. But at the same time, they need to be able to subjugate their personal ambition for the sake of the team, and getting that balance. And it's this balance between selfishness and selflessness. And if the selfishness overcomes the selflessness, you need to be a part of a team. Well, actually, you don't have a team. So being able to somehow, I think that's the trickiest balance in getting a team right, is being able to balance individual ambition with team ambition.
And how do you, let's say you have a member of your team of Australia who's incredibly egotistical and gets an awful lot of attention. For rugby fans, David Campese, I'm thinking. How do you manage that person? And do you sometimes have to think, well, yes, he gives off this air of supreme confidence, but actually once in a while he probably needs an arm around his shoulder, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, I think it's about understanding them is the number one thing. Understanding, what makes this person tick, why are they like they are, and you don't want to really cut off their ambition, because that's part of what gives them the confidence to perform. But you also want to make sure it's curtailed and it's not going to distract the team. So I think getting that balance is, it's never particularly easy, but I think it starts from understanding the person. And to really get the best out of a team, it's about, I often talk about composure, and composure both at an individual level but also at a team level. Composure is about faith. Not an evangelical style of faith or anything, but just a basic grounded sense of faith. Firstly, in yourself, like you've worked as hard as you can to be as good as you can at what you are, and you've got that faith, that confidence when you get on that line. But secondly, it's about faith in your teammates around you, and that faith means, it doesn't mean that you look across the huddle and you think they're the best player in the world at what they, within their position, but it means you actually know them. You know them for their strengths and you know them for their weaknesses, and part of that is then you can support them where they're weak. And David Campese was the best player in the world in his day, and he was a big reason we won the 1991 World Cup. He was the greatest attacking player in the world, but he probably wouldn't have been in the top 50 defenders in this room, and it just wasn't his strength. But we knew that, so we could support him where he wasn't particularly strong. And
it's interesting because it seems that you define a difference between liking somebody and trusting somebody. And the important thing is in a team is you trust each other. You don't actually have to like each other.
I think in any group of people, and we'd often travel to a World Cup, we'd travel with 30 people in a squad, and it's like any business group. Like, you're not going to love everyone you're with in that team environment, but the trust and, more importantly, probably the respect you have and the respect that you develop over time with that person. And I think it really comes back to, in sport, sport compared to business, sport has some great transparent moments where you can see the effort someone's putting in, you can see their commitment, which I think is a lot harder to discern as quickly in business. Like, someone can be saying something in business and telling you what they intend to do or how they're going, and the results tend to lag a bit. Whereas in sport, the performance is right there in front of you, and they can't hide from it. So I think in sport you have these great moments of honesty, and I often think about a World Cup final. Or imagine, Steve, if you, just before you're about to go out and row the final, like in rugby, you'd pull it into a huddle, and there's 14 other guys in that huddle. And that's a really important moment of honesty. You can look around every set of eyes in that huddle, and you know that you've got the faith in them that they have in you, but it's also you're charging them with that commitment of what they have to do out there on the field that day. And the second moment of honesty that's really important is, after whatever happens on the field, win, lose or draw, you come back into that change room and you're able to have, to look your mate in the eye and to know that that moment of honesty, to know that there wasn't more that you could have done. that you didn't let your mate down, not because of ability, but because of effort and focus and stuff like that. And I think that's really important.
When you then leave that changing room and you're having to deal with the consequences of what has happened on the pitch, be it success or be it failure, how do you handle that? Did you have any tricks that would help you through?
I think the analysis is really important, understanding why you succeeded or why you failed. A lot of the time it's easier to, a lot of people say this, like when you're successful, you probably don't look at why you're successful as much as when you failed, you're desperately digging into why you failed. And I think success can create short-term memory loss in a lot of people. I remember learning really early in my career, there was an Australian swimming coach actually. I couldn't hardly swim across the pool, let alone the length of the pool. There was a guy by the name of Don Talbot. I think he ended up coming over here and doing some work with the British squad. But I remember talking to him about an athlete that was making a comeback, and I was really surprised, an Olympic comeback, and I was really surprised by his response. I said, "How will he go in his comeback?" And he said, "He'll fail." He was just blunt as that. He said, "He'll fail." I said, "How can you say that so quickly?" He said, "Oh, he'll fail because most comebacks fail." He said, "Most comebacks fail because people forget how hard they had to work in the first place to achieve what they achieved, and they actually never work that hard again." And I think when you fail, being able to have that another moment of honesty with yourself, to look at why you failed, and then was it because you didn't do enough work? Was it because you didn't concentrate? Was it because you let someone down, or whatever it was? But be really honest with yourself at that moment, like that person who's making a comeback needs to be honest with himself. Steve was honest with himself five times in a row. It's an extraordinary achievement.